So we're going to dive into a little bit of more video editing in Adobe Photoshop. Last time we learned how to take basically stilled images and create an animated GIF out of them. If you ever work for someone who does video editing, my last job that I had, my boss he was a video editor. So a lot of the things that I had to create were still images or composites to go onto a DVD or to go onto broadcast television. And at first I had no clue. How do you set up a document? What screen resolution? What size does it have to be for something that's going to go onto a TV screen? Luckily, Photoshop answers the question for you. When you go to File and create a new document, in the document presets, one of the settings is for film and video. And there's some different sizes you can choose from. Now this one was what I really had to research into to figure out. There's two formats that are standard throughout the world. There's NTSC and there's PAL. North American uses NTSC, so the vast majority of whatever you're going to work on is going to be this standard. Every once in a while you'll get something where they'll say, hey, I have a PAL editor, and that's when you choose that file format. There's also some for high definition televisions and this type of thing. We're not going to get into this one. The thing you've got to remember is it going to be square pixel or is it going to be a standard pixel? This is what this means. An old school television, if you've ever gotten really, really close to it and looked at the RGB pixels that are on top of it, they don't have square pixels. Their pixels are slightly taller than they are square. So if you were doing that one, you would just choose your standard either DV or D1 for whatever you work on. It's not going to make a difference. But if you're working on a modern television like the one we have in the class or something for a computer screen, you're going to choose square pixel. Photoshop will reorient the dimensions of your document to suit whatever type file that you need to work on. Also, if you choose one, so I'm just going to choose an NTSC, it's already going to give you a width and your height, 72 resolution. We'll say OK. Let's see, it's going to say the pixel aspect ratio is for preview purposes. After this one, I didn't choose a square pixel, so it's going to stretch it out when you save the image. So I'm going to say OK. When you do make the file, this is what it's going to look like.
So do you want us to do DV1 and not the square pixel?
For what we're going to work on today, it's not going to matter. I just wanted to show you this in case you've ever do create something.
Okay.
It's going to give you some guidelines. Remember in InDesign you work with things that have crop and bleed marks? Same is kind of true with the television. Whenever you put something onto TV, sometimes the TV will have a slight area that you don't want to put anything in because it's just going to bleed off the edge. And so anything inside the center area, this is your safe zone. You definitely don't want to put any logo or anything outside of this area. And usually there's just a few inches of little gap right here. A lot of times, have you ever seen a commercial and someone try to put their logo and like it's being cropped off by your television? Mm-hmm. That's because they got a graphic designer who didn't know what they were doing and they put it right down here at the edge and they thought it would look good. Put it in the safe zone, it'll work out fine every time. All good? So that's basically setting up a document for creating something for video. Now when you download the videos, as you've got, remember they're in two folders. You can look at them and play them. So here's Edward dancing. Here's Lauren. And everybody, and there's also the other ones in the other folder as well. There's Justin E. Trips. Oh. Okay. These are what we're going to work in Photoshop for today. So I'm going to drag one in. Let's do Richard. He's not here, so we can make fun of him. I'm just going to drag it straight into Photoshop. Also make sure that your timeline is opened up because that's where we're mainly going to be working for today. What's the first thing you notice that's wrong with this image?
Rotate.
Rotated. All right. So the first thing we have to do is at least rotate it the correct way. By the way, if you look in your layers palette, you'll notice that video has its own special type of layer. It's an actual video that you can play. It's not a still image like you'd be working in a GIF. But just be aware that you're working in a special type of layer. To rotate an image, if you've never found this, you can always go to Image, Image Rotation, and you can rotate the entire canvas clockwise, counterclockwise, or any dimension that you want. If I choose this, however, it's going to say, hey, transforming a video layer requires converting it to a smart object. That's just because it needs to keep it that particular size, and Photoshop doesn't handle this very well, so we're going to convert it. And it'll work just the same. We're working on your image, Richard, so get happy. Anything that you do to a Photoshop file, you can now do to a video file. If you look down into your time frame, you can see, first of all, This isn't going to look the same as your GIF time frame. You're not editing frame by frame. Instead, you have this nice timeline that goes across, and wherever there's purple in this case, that's going to be the line of your video. If you want to play your video, here's the play button on the far left-hand side. Clicking it will play through, and you can play the video from it as well. If I had my sound turned on, it also has the audio track that's on there. We're not going to worry about the audio track for this one. Like I said, if you want to add anything to this video or you want to do any type of manipulation to it, you can certainly do that. So let's say I go over to my adjustments and I want to turn this into, let's adjust the levels on it. So I'm going to add in a levels adjustment layer to my video, and so anything that I do to the level adjustments will also affect the entire video by itself. So if for whatever reason you film some video that's just too dark, you can lighten it up just as you would a normal video, and then play it again. It'll go through there as well. I thought this was kind of cool. I'm going to do this one to my website. I like using the gradient map option. Gradient map will allow you to apply a gradation of colors over your spectrum on whatever photograph that you're looking at. Here's the way it works. You've got your gradient map. Wherever the darker colors are, in this case they're going to turn them white. Where the lighter colors are, they're turning them black. And you can choose in between. So if I wanted to go from blue to red to yellow, it turns all the pixels blue to red to yellow, darker to lighter from there. And we'll say, okay, so now when I play back the video, I've got the video and I've color corrected it to be that way as well. Pretty cool. So just like editing a regular photograph in Photoshop. What I want you to do for your document, however, is I want you to first crop off anything that's not him dancing. So you can see when he starts, he'll start there, and then he stops and laughs. So I need to take off the first couple of seconds and the last couple of frames at the end. Here's how you can edit quickly and trim up a video that you're working on. If you'll move your cursor to the very edge of your line, you can see it turns into that little icon. If you click and drag, you get kind of a preview of what it will look like. And what I want to do is I want to stop him right at the end. So he's doing one and down. So right when he crosses his arms, that's where I want it to stop. So I've cropped it out from there. Let's do the same thing from the other side. Click and drag. So I want him to start, and right where he crosses his arms, there. And I can give or take a couple of frames from there. So now when I play it, all I'm getting is him doing that one move. If I want it to loop over and over again, look at the very top right hand side, and there's loop playback you can choose from. So now when I play it, it'll loop over and over again, and he's basically doing the same frame over and over again. Pretty cool? So that's the basics of working from there. We'll get into doing some more different stuff with this and a couple more exercises as well. The next thing you'll need to do is to save it as a GIF. We need to take out a lot of the frames. If I was just to save this as a GIF now, I'm going to go to File, Save for Web. Let's see how big it would be. It may take it just a couple of seconds to render. First of all, it's a huge file. There we go. It's about 7 megabytes. That's about as big as a normal image file. I don't want to do that. What I need to do is take out a lot of the frames that may not be necessary for it. So I'm going to hit cancel. When you make a video, all videos of course are made up of different frames. If you watch a movie, go to the movies and watch something, they do that at 24 frames per second. 24 frames are coming up every second to make a continuous motion. If you watch something on television, it's anywhere from 30 to 35 frames per second. The newer higher definition television or cameras get up to 60 frames per second. So when I record this, if I need to change the frame rate that I'm at, I record it on a digital recorder, so it should be about 60 frames per second. Click back on the right hand side, and where is it? Let's see. Oh, I know it's up here somewhere.
Convert frames, maybe?
Where do you see it? Convert frames? No, that's going to change up the frame rate. Why is it different on this one?
Set timeline.
There you go. Set time frame rate. Sorry about that. Set timeline frame rate. It's going to give you this dialog box. Looks like I was recording at a lower frame rate. Right here it's at 30 frames per second. I'm going to knock it down to about 15 frames per second. That's pretty good for a GIF that'll give you a small file size. So I can set it at 15. We'll say OK. It's going to look pretty much exactly the same. You're going to see the same. And when I play it, it may be a little bit choppy, but that's OK for what we're working with. The last thing I need to do is I need to crop this down to be the right size and dimensions for my website that I've created. So here's my website. Down at the very bottom, these are where I'm going to put each of the dance moves. I've already got it kind of squared off, so I need to find out the dimensions for this one. What tool should I use?
So,
Measure tool, yeah. Remember we use the measurement tool? It's usually located under your eyedropper, or the ruler tool. With this one, I can click and drag over one area, and at the very top, I've got my width and height dimensions. I'm going to jot that down real quick. So the width is 0.887, and the height is 1.287. I can jump back in here. When I grab my crop tool, up here I can go into a specific size and resolution, and it'll give me a dialog box, and from here I can then type in my width of 0.887, the height of 1.287, and my resolution, whatever the resolution you set for the last one. In my case it was I think 72. I'll say OK. So now when I crop it, I can bring it in just a little bit. When I hit return, it's going to make it smaller. That's because it's going to make it the exact size that I need it to be. And you can see it will become pixelated, but that's what it should be. From here, I can always go to File, Save for Web. I've got GIF selected. He's going to be that small, but that's okay. I'll hit Preview, and you can kind of get a little preview of what it looks like. Now, it only played through once. Let's go back to our GIF. Change our looping options to forever. Forever loop. And then it'll play over and over again, forever and ever from there. Pretty cool? That's essentially what we're going to work on for today. You're going to load up each of the images, do any type of color correction that you want to, any type of changing it up. Trim up the ends of it so that it's only doing the same move over and over and over again. And then save it down, change up the size of it to fit your website, and save it as a GIF. Remember, when you created your website, go ahead and make up the template and save the website and change the white areas, the areas that you're saving up to place the images into, convert those to GIFs. Once you save all of your images or all of your videos, you'll replace them in there. This is just like that exercise we did where you had to replace the GIFs with the little flowers and candy and toys. You're doing the same thing for this one as well. This is going to be part of your project. I want all 11 of the images, all 11 of the videos to be turned in. The extra 3 that you do, if you don't want to use the 8, those will count towards your exercise project. But make sure all 11 of them are done and turned in, and those will be due next class period on Tuesday. All good? Okay, I'll turn it over to you and let y'all continue working.